The sensor alarm chimed softly aboard the Imperial Scout vessel Eternal Vigilance. Junior Sensor Officer Pixon straightened at his station, his three eyes focusing on the holographic display that materialized before him. A contact, unidentified, was moving through the outer reaches of Sector 447 at what could only be described as a pathetic crawl. "Commander Veshik?" Pixon called out, his vocal membranes fluttering with barely contained amusement. "I have an unknown vessel. Configuration does not match any known species in the database." Commander Veshik rose from his command throne, his scaled hide gleaming under the ship's bioluminescent lighting. The Zarathian officer had served the Empire for 40 cycles, and in that time, he had encountered 17 species at various stages of development. Each time, the result was the same. They saw the might of the Zarathian Galactic Empire and understood their place in the universe. "Display it," Veshik ordered. The main view screen flickered to life. There, against the backdrop of distant stars, hung a vessel that looked like it had been assembled by children playing with scrap metal. It was enormous, easily 3 kilometers in length, but its design was crude. Cylindrical sections connected by simple mechanical joints, massive rotating sections that probably provided artificial gravity through centrifugal force. "How quaint," Veshik said. "The Empire abandoned such primitive methods 8,000 years ago. Analysis. Propulsion appears to be fusion-based," Pixon reported, his voice filled with barely suppressed laughter. "Primitive fusion, Commander. They are using controlled hydrogen burning to generate thrust. Their maximum velocity appears to be approximately 0.03 times the speed of light." Other officers on the bridge began to chuckle. Fusion drives, the Empire had used those when they were still crawling between inner planets. "Life signs?" Veshik asked. "Scanning now. Difficult to penetrate their hull. It appears remarkably dense for such a primitive construction." There we are. Reading approximately 12,000 life forms. Bipedal oxygen breathers. Carbon-based standard template. Nothing special. Veshik settled back into his throne. Another species taking its first stumbling steps into the galaxy. How many times had he witnessed this? They always thought they were special. Then they met the Empire and realized how small they truly were. "Hail them," Veshik ordered. "Let us see if they have developed translation protocols." The communications officer broadcast a standard greeting across all known frequency bands. For a moment, there was no response. Then the view screen split and a face appeared. It was female, Veshik guessed. Pale skin, dark hair tied back, 2 forward-facing eyes suggesting a predator species. Her expression was calm, curious even, not fearful. "This is Captain Sarah Chan of the United Nations ship Endeavour," she said. "We're a colony vessel from Earth, heading to establish a settlement in the new Terra system. Can we help you?" "I am Commander Veshik of the Zarathian Galactic Empire," he replied. "You have entered territory claimed by the Empire, which has maintained order here for 12,000 of your years." He waited for the reaction, the realization of insignificance. Captain Chen nodded slowly. "We didn't detect any territorial markers or communications. Our apologies if we've intruded. We can adjust our course if needed." "You are forgiven," Veshik said magnanimously. "Tell me, is this your species' first venture beyond your home system?" "Yes, we've been preparing for a long time." "How long did it take you to reach this point in space?" "We launched from Earth orbit 18 months ago. We've been accelerating and decelerating in shifts. We should reach New Terra in another 6 months." Pixon laughed. 2 years to cross a distance the Empire traversed in 3 days. "Captain Chun," Veshik said, "you must understand the galaxy is not empty. There are ancient powers. The Zarathian Empire is one of them." "We're aware there may be other species," she replied. "We hoped to make peaceful contact." "A wise decision born of ignorance," Veshik said. "Your species is vulnerable. Your ship would not last 30 seconds against a single Imperial corvette." He continued, offering the Empire's mercy, protectorate status, technology, integration into Imperial society. Finally, Chun replied, "We appreciate the offer, but we must decline. Humanity has worked very hard to reach the stars on its own terms. We're open to diplomacy and trade, but we intend to remain independent. Silence filled the bridge. Refuse, Veshik said sharply. You cannot survive without the Empire, he added. We've survived for 200,000 years without meeting you, Chun replied calmly. I think we'll manage. The transmission ended. She had terminated the communication. Sir, Pixon said quietly, they are continuing on their previous course. No trajectory change. Veshik stood frozen. In his entire career, no species had ever simply refused the Empire and then ignored it. They either accepted immediately or ran. They didn't just casually continue on their way. Interesting, Veshik said finally. Pixon, compile all sensor data on that vessel. I want a complete analysis, then transmit it to Fleet Command along with a full report of this encounter. Yes, sir. Shall we pursue? No, Veshik said thoughtfully. We will let them go for now. They are on their way to establish a colony, they said. That means there is a homeworld somewhere, Earth, she called it. We will need to find this Earth. He returned to his command throne, his mind already composing the report. Let the High Command decide how to handle these foolish humans. They would learn. Species always learned one way or another that the Empire did not make offers twice. Sir, the tactical officer spoke up. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from that vessel. Their fusion reactors are producing far more power than they should be capable of at their technological level. Explain. According to sensor data, their reactors are running at efficiencies that shouldn't be possible with simple fusion. The containment fields are crude but remarkably stable, and their hull density is odd. It's almost as if they've compressed the molecular structure somehow, but that would require technology they shouldn't possess. Veshik waved a hand dismissively. Probably inefficient systems producing excess heat and radiation. Primitive species often build things that leak energy. As for the hull density, perhaps they used a naturally dense material. Some species get lucky with planetary resources. Yes, sir. Although what? Their reactor output is approximately 3 times what our projection suggested. A pause. That's a significant discrepancy, Veshik said. Include it in the report. Now move on. We have 3 more systems to survey before the cycle ends. The Eternal Vigilance turned away from the lumbering human colony ship and engaged its faster-than-light drives, vanishing into the void. Aboard the human vessel Endeavour, Captain Sarah Chan stood in the command center surrounded by her senior staff. The mood was tense. That went better than expected, her first officer, Commander James Park, said dryly. Chun smiled slightly. They think we're primitives. That's fine. Let them think that. Should we warn Earth? Asked Lieutenant Foster from Communications. Already done. I sent a quantum entangled burst the moment they appeared on sensors. Earth Command knows we've made first contact, and that it wasn't exactly friendly. They're going to come looking for Earth, Park said. You know that, right? I'm counting on it, Chin replied. By the time they find it, we'll be ready to show them humanity didn't spend 400 years in the solar system just building fusion drives. She turned to the viewport, where stars stretched endlessly as the Endeavour continued its slow journey. To the Zarathians, they looked like children, primitive, weak. Good. How long until we reach New Terra? Chin asked. 6 months, 17 days at current velocity, the navigator replied. Good. That should be just enough time. Enough time for what, Captain? Foster asked. Chen's smile widened slightly. Enough time for the shipyards back home to finish the new fleet. The one that doesn't use fusion drives. Park chuckled. I almost feel bad for them. Don't, Chen said firmly. They offered us servitude dressed as protection. They looked at us and saw prey. Whatever happens next, they brought it on themselves. She brought up a display showing the Endeavour specifications. To anyone outside, it looked like a simple fusion-powered colony ship, rotating gravity sections, chemical thrusters, outdated systems. But hidden deep within its hull were prototype weapon systems, compressed antimatter reactors, and advanced manufacturing bays quietly producing war-ready components. The endeavor was not what it seemed. Chun opened a private channel to Earth Command using a quantum communicator the Zarathians didn't even know existed. Command, this is Chun. First contact made. Species is hostile in a condescending way. They consider us primitive. Recommend we proceed with Operation Surprise Party. Let's show them what 4 centuries of focused engineering can accomplish. The response came instantly. Confirmed. Operation Surprise Party is greenlit. Construction is ahead of schedule. 6 months until first battle group is ready. Try not to start a war before then. Chun smirked. No promises. She closed the channel and turned to her crew. They were all smiling now. Humanity had spent 400 years trapped in one solar system, unable to crack faster-than-light travel. So they had done what humans did best. They perfected everything else. Materials, weapons, power, manufacturing. And now, finally, they were going to see if it was enough. All hands, Chun announced over the intercom. We have made first contact with an alien species called the Zarathians. They think we're primitives. In 6 months, we're going to show them exactly what kind of primitives we are. Tears of excitement echoed through the ship. The Endeavour continued its slow journey through space, looking like nothing more than a fragile colony ship lost in the dark. The Zarathians would learn the truth soon enough. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, and they had brought weapons the Empire could not yet imagine. Vixel called up the visual feed on his main screen. The human ship hung in space about 10,000 kilometers from the checkpoint. It was sleek. He had to admit, where the Endeavour had been all awkward angles and visible mechanical connections, this vessel was smooth, almost organic in its curves. No visible weapons ports, but primitives often hid their crude kinetic launchers inside retractable housings. Hail them, Vixel ordered. Let us see what these humans want. The communication channel opened almost instantly. A human face appeared on screen. Male, dark skin, short hair, and an expression of polite attention. This is Commander Marcus Webb of the UNS Defiant. Good afternoon, Checkpoint Helix 9. We're requesting clearance to transit through Zarathian space to reach Sector 451. We have no hostile intentions and will comply with all traffic regulations. Vixel studied the human. So polite, so respectful. Perhaps they had learned their place in the 6 months since first contact. Perhaps they had realized refusal of the Empire's protection was foolish. Commander Webb, Vixel said. I am Patrol Commander Vixel. Before we can grant transit permission, your vessel must submit to a standard inspection. Power down your engines and allow a boarding team to examine your ship and cargo. Webb paused briefly. Commander Vixel, I appreciate the protocol, but we're not carrying cargo. This is a warship on a patrol mission. We don't allow foreign boarding parties onto military vessels. However, we're happy to transmit specifications and mission parameters. A warship. The human had called this small vessel a warship. Vixel felt amusement rise in his chest. This tiny ship, barely larger than an Imperial courier, was their idea of military power, and they refused inspection. Commander Webb, Vixel said more firmly. This is not a negotiation. All vessels transiting Imperial space must submit to inspection. If you refuse, you will not be granted passage. If you proceed without authorization, you will be fired upon. Another pause. We can't allow a boarding party, Webb replied. Our orders are clear. We will proceed on our course. We'll be through your space in approximately 6 hours at standard velocity. The transmission ended. Vixel stared at the blank screen in disbelief. They refused, he muttered. Sir, his tactical officer said. The human vessel is powering up its engines. Unbelievable. Deploy corvettes Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Intercept and disable its engines. Minimum force. I want the ship intact. Yes, sir. 3 Imperial corvettes detached from the station, accelerating rapidly. Each was 80 meters of advanced Imperial engineering, energy weapons, reinforced shields, and engines capable of turning unprotected matter into vapor under acceleration stress. Against a primitive human vessel, there would be no contest. Vixel watched as the intercept closed. The human ship made no evasive movement. Foolish, Vixel said. Corvettes in range, the tactical officer reported. Preparing precision plasma strikes. Fire. 3 lances of energy struck the human vessel. Nothing happened. Vixel leaned forward. Report. Defensive screens detected, the officer said. No damage. That's impossible. Increase power. Fire again. More plasma beams slammed into the ship, brighter, stronger. Energy scattered harmlessly across invisible barriers. Return fire detected, the sensor officer suddenly said. Multiple signatures locked onto our corvettes. Vixel laughed. Let them fire kinetic weapons. Our shields will handle anything primitive. Projectiles launched, 3 contacts. Velocity, sir. This cannot be correct. What is it? 0.4 times light speed. Silence. Then chaos. 3 simultaneous impacts. Alpha's shields didn't register the hit. The projectile passed straight through, hull breach across 17 decks. Atmosphere venting. Beta lost half its sensor array instantly. Gamma attempted evasive maneuvers, but the next shot struck its reactor. It went dark. 40 seconds. That was all it took. 3 Imperial corvettes, elite war machines, disabled. Sir, the sensor officer whispered. Shaken? The human vessel is transmitting. Put it on screen. Commander Webb reappeared. Calm. Apologetic. Commander Vixel, I'm sorry about this. We tried to avoid conflict. Your ships are disabled but intact. We're transmitting emergency assistance protocols. We'll continue on our route. Webb out. The screen went dark. The human ship accelerated away. Silence filled the bridge. Get me Admiral Thexvar, Vixel said finally. Priority 1. 3 sectors away, Admiral Thexvar received the transmission. He watched without interruption. When it ended, he sat back slowly. Show me the sensor logs. Data filled the room. Projectile velocity. Shield interaction. Energy readings. Nothing made sense. He turned to his science officer. Explain this. The officer hesitated. The projectiles are tungsten carbide, Admiral. Simple kinetic slugs, but accelerated to 40% of light speed. That's impossible. And yet accurate. The kinetic energy per shot exceeds our largest plasma cannons. The room went still. How are they accelerating them? Thexvar asked. Unknown. The acceleration occurs inside the vessel. We have no visible mechanism. And the shields? The officer hesitated again. That is the more concerning part. Go on. They are not deflecting energy. Pause. They are absorbing it. They appear to be absorbing it and then dissipating it through the hull structure itself, the science officer continued. The entire ship's hull seems to be part of the defensive system. And the hull density readings. Admiral, if these sensor readings are accurate, that ship's hull is denser than neutronium. That's impossible. Yes, sir. It should be. But the readings don't lie. Somehow, these humans have found a way to compress matter beyond what we thought possible. Their ship isn't just protected by dense armor. Their ship is dense armor with engines and weapons attached. Thexvar stood and walked to the holographic display, studying the rotating image of the human vessel. It looked so small, so insignificant, yet it had disabled 3 Imperial corvettes in less than a minute. What happened to that colony ship, the Endeavor? He asked. Checking, sir. According to tracking data, it arrived at its destination in a system the humans call New Terra approximately 2 months ago. They have established a colony there and begun construction of orbital facilities. And their home system, Earth? We haven't located it yet, sir. The humans have been careful not to reveal its location. Their FTL signatures are unique and difficult to track. They do not use the same jump technology we do. Thexvar made a decision. Assemble Battle Squadron Krev. 25 warships, 2 dreadnoughts. I want destroyers, cruisers, full support vessels. We're going to New Terra. Sir, Pelayer said carefully. That seems like an extreme response to a single incident. A single incident? Thexvar turned sharply. Pelayer, think about what we just witnessed. A primitive species, one we believed barely capable of interstellar travel. disabled 3 of our corvettes with weapons and defensive systems we do not understand. If they have one ship like this, they have more. We must show them, unequivocally, what happens when you challenge the Empire. And if they have many ships like this, then we destroy them all. His voice hardened. We are the Zarathian Empire. We have ruled this region of space for 12,000 years. We do not accept challenges from primitives who only just learned to leave their home system. Pelayer bowed and left. Thexvar remained, staring at the human vessel's holographic image. Something about it bothered him. First contact reports had described humanity as weak, primitive, insignificant. Commander Veshik's assessment had agreed. But that was 6 months ago. What had changed? Or had nothing changed at all except their assumptions? Had the humans been hiding their true capabilities? Thexvar didn't know, but he intended to find out. If humanity thought a few unexpected victories would shake imperial authority, they were about to learn a very painful lesson. The Empire did not maintain order for 12,000 years by tolerating defiance. Battle Squadron Krev dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the new Terra system. 50 Imperial warships materialized in perfect formation, an overwhelming display of force. 2 dreadnoughts, each 3 kilometers of armored devastation, anchored the formation. Cruisers and destroyers formed a battle sphere refined over millennia of war doctrine. Support vessels hung back, ready for reinforcement. Admiral Thexvar stood aboard the Infinite Dominion and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. This was power. This was order. Sensor sweep, he ordered. Full system scan underway, his officer replied. Detecting human colony on the 4th planet. Orbital structures present. Multiple fusion reactors on surface and orbit. Admiral contacts detected. 12 vessels at marker positions between our fleet and the inner system. Display them. The hologram updated. 12 human warships, each approximately 400 meters long. Sleek, silent, positioned with deliberate precision. 12 against 50. They are either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish, Thexvar said. Analysis, he asked. Pelayer studied the readings. Same hull density signature as the Defiant. Same energy output anomalies. These appear to be dedicated warships, not converted civilian vessels. No visible weapon systems, another officer added. Neither did the Defiant, Thexvar said coldly. He studied the formation. 12 ships. In 6 months, humanity had built at least 12 warships capable of defeating Imperial corvettes. That rate of production was concerning. But numbers still favored the Empire. Open communications, he ordered. Let us make this clear. The channel opened. Captain Sarah Chun appeared, now wearing Admiral insignia. Admiral Chun, Thexvar said, emphasizing the title with thinly veiled disdain. I am Admiral Thexvar of the Zarathian Imperial Fleet. As you can see, I have brought sufficient force to resolve this situation. Admiral Thexvar, Chun replied calmly. Welcome to New Terra. What situation would that be? Her composure irritated him. She should be afraid. The situation, Thexvar said, where your species has refused Imperial protection, attacked Imperial vessels, and demonstrated ignorance of the established order of this region of space. This ends now. Chen's expression remained unchanged. Admiral, she said evenly, the incident at Checkpoint Helix 9 was defensive in nature. Your ships attempted to board one of our vessels without authorization. We disabled them without destroying them and offered medical assistance. Hardly an attack. You fired on Imperial vessels. That is an act of war. We defended ourselves from an attempt to violate our sovereignty. That's not an act of war. That's self-defense. Thexvar's crest rose in frustration. The human was being deliberately obtuse. Admiral Chun, he said coldly, I will explain this once. The Zarathian Empire has maintained order in this region for 12,000 of your years. We do so through fair governance and overwhelming military force. When we offer protection, it is not a suggestion, it is inevitability. You may accept peacefully, or you will be brought into compliance by force. And if we prefer independence? Chen asked. Then you will be made an example. A pause. Chen nodded slowly. Admiral Thexvar, you're making assumptions. You see fusion drives and assume we're primitive. You see colony ships and assume we're weak. You see small numbers and assume we're insignificant. There is nothing to explain, Thexvar said dismissively. You have 12 ships. I have 50. Mathematics is not negotiable. You're right, Chen replied calmly. Mathematics isn't negotiable. Let me give you some numbers. She continued. 400 years ago, humanity developed fusion power. We tried for centuries to achieve faster-than-light travel. We failed. Our FTL systems are still inefficient compared to yours. Then you should have accepted imperial guidance. Thexvar interrupted. Please let me finish, Chen said evenly. A pause. Because we couldn't solve FTL, we were trapped in one system for 400 years. So we worked on everything else. She brought up a data display. We perfected material science. We engineered alloys denser and stronger than naturally occurring matter. We refined fusion reactors to produce 40 times theoretical baseline output. We developed antimatter production and containment at industrial scale. And we built manufacturing systems capable of constructing a warship in 30 days. Thexvar waved a hand. Impressive claims. They aren't claims, Chen said. They're history. She leaned slightly forward. Our ships don't rely on shields the way yours do. We don't deflect energy. We absorb it. Our hulls are compressed matter alloys designed to withstand direct nuclear-level impacts. And weapons? Thexvar asked despite himself. Simple, Chen replied. Mass accelerators. Tungsten carbide slugs fired at relativistic velocities, up to 0.4 the speed of light. Silence spread across the bridge. Each impact carries enough kinetic energy to crack a planet, she added. Your shields are built for energy weapons. They were never designed for that. Thexvar's patience broke. Enough. You will power down your vessels or be destroyed. Admiral, Chen said quietly, you should leave. Fire. 50 Imperial warships unleashed their full arsenal. The space between fleets lit up with energy, plasma beams, particle lances, missile swarms. Enough firepower to annihilate a city, to crack a moon. The 12 human ships did not move. The barrage struck, and did nothing. Energy splashed across their hulls like water on stone. Missiles detonated harmlessly against impossible armor. Silence followed. Cease fire, Thexvar said quietly. Analysis, he ordered. Pelayer worked frantically. Their hulls are absorbing energy and redistributing it through structural compression. Density is approximately 30 times neutronium. That's impossible, someone whispered. They are not using shields, Pelayer continued. Their entire hull is the defense system. Thexvar stared at the display. Ships that dense shouldn't be able to maneuver. They are compensating with internal gravity manipulation, offsetting inertial mass. Technology we do not possess. On the screen, Chun had not moved. She was still watching, patient, waiting. Your turn, she said. Evasive maneuvers, Thexvar shouted. All ships move. Too late. The human return volley was instantaneous. 12 ships, 36 shots. Tungsten slugs accelerated to relativistic speeds. They crossed the distance in seconds. 8 Imperial vessels vanished almost instantly. 3 cruisers were erased outright. Reactors struck. Matter vaporized. 5 more broke apart under glancing impacts, shields collapsing like glass. 2 destroyers lost entire engine sections and spun into silence. 1 dreadnought, the inevitable victory, lost its entire forward third. The bridge and command systems were gone. 8 ships, gone. In 8 seconds, the Imperial fleet had been crippled. Thexvar stood frozen. Reports flooded the bridge. Casualties, hull breaches, reactor failures. The strongest fleet in the sector shattered. And then Chen's voice returned. I'm truly sorry, she said softly. But you were warned. Power down your weapons and withdraw. Or we continue defending ourselves. Thexvar wanted to refuse, wanted to order another attack, wanted to do anything except admit he had been wrong, that these humans were not the primitives he had assumed. But he was also a practical military officer who understood mathematics. He had started with 50 ships. Now he had 42 functional vessels. The humans had 12 ships and had taken 0 damage. If this fight continued, he would lose. Simple mathematics. All ships, he said quietly. Power down weapons. Begin rescue operations for damaged vessels. Prepare for system evacuation. He looked at Admiral Chun on the screen. Her expression was sympathetic but firm. For what it's worth, Admiral, she said, we don't want to be your enemies. We just want to be left alone to build our civilization on our own terms. Is that really so unreasonable? Thexvar did not answer. He terminated the communication. Then he turned to his remaining officers. Begin immediate withdrawal. Recover all survivors. As soon as rescue operations are complete, we jump out of this system. And someone get me a direct channel to Imperial High Command. They need to know what we're facing. As the battered fleet began the humiliating retreat, Thexvar replayed the engagement in his mind. 8 seconds. That was all it had taken to shatter everything he believed about humanity. These were not primitives stumbling into the galaxy. These were warriors who had spent 4 centuries preparing for exactly this moment. They had built ships that could not be destroyed by conventional weapons. They had built weapons that could destroy anything. The question was no longer whether humanity could challenge the Empire. The question was whether the Empire could survive a war with humanity. Because if those 12 ships were only the beginning, if humanity could produce them at scale, then the Zarathian Empire had a problem far greater than it understood. The Imperial Palace on Zereth Prime had stood for 8,000 years. Its crystalline spires rose above the capital like frozen lightning. Inside the Grand Council chamber, Empress Kalipara the Eternal sat upon the throne of ages. Her iridescent scales reflected the chamber's light as she watched the assembled war council in silence. She had ruled for 170 cycles. She had seen wars, rebellions, and the rise and fall of species. But she had never seen her commanders look like this. Admiral Thexvar stood before her, rigid. Around him sat Fleet Admiral Kisara, General Nexthel, Science Director Pelayer, and Intelligence Director Vixasha. All of them were silent. All right, the Empress said calmly. Show me again. For the 5th time, they replayed the battle. 50 Imperial warships firing at 12 human vessels. Energy weapons failing. Then the human counterattack. 8 seconds. 8 Imperial ships gone. When it ended, silence filled the chamber. Explain, the Empress said. Science Director Pelayer stepped forward. We made incorrect assumptions based on incomplete data. The humans did not follow a conventional technological development path. Obviously, the Empress said dryly. Try again. Pelayer continued. Most species develop faster than light travel early, then expand their technological base afterward. Humans could not. They were trapped in their home system for 4 centuries. So they compensated, Kisara said slowly. Yes, they focused entirely on everything else, material science, manufacturing, energy systems, weapons development. Every branch of technology except FTL was pushed to its absolute limit. He changed the display. Matter compression technology, he said. They can alter molecular bonding structures to create alloys 30 times denser than neutronium, while maintaining structural integrity. That is impossible, Nexthel said. It should be, Pelayer replied. But they are using it to build entire warships. Kisara leaned forward. Ships that dense should not be able to move. They use internal gravity manipulation, Pelayer explained. Partial mass offset systems. Selective gravitational cancellation. And their weapons? The Empress asked. Relativistic kinetic accelerators, Pelayer said. They fire tungsten carbide projectiles at 40% of light speed using electromagnetic and gravitational acceleration systems. Vixasha spoke quietly. We abandoned kinetic weapons millennia ago. Yes, Pelayer said. Because energy weapons were easier. The humans did the opposite. They perfected kinetic weapons beyond anything we thought possible. The Empress listened without interruption. So, she said at last, they are slower at FTL travel, but superior in direct combat. In most measurable combat metrics, yes, Majesty, Pelayer admitted. And how many of them are there? Vixasha stepped forward. At least 150 confirmed warships. Likely more. Massive shipyards at New Terra, and an unknown home system we have not located. Production rate? The Empress asked. 1 warship every 36 hours, Vixasha said. Possibly faster. The chamber went still. Even the Empress did not speak immediately. 6 months, she said finally. And they built this in 6 months? We believe construction began earlier, Vixasha said. The colony ship was likely a test. Kasara's voice turned grim. If we go to war now, Majesty, we will require 60% of the Imperial fleet to guarantee victory. Losses could reach 50% of that force. Millions of casualties. Thousands of ships. And if we wait? The Empress asked. Pelayer answered. Within 1 year, they may match our fleet in number. Within 2, they may surpass us. Silence. Then the Empress turned toward the window. Below, billions of citizens of the Zarathian Empire lived unaware that their dominance was being questioned for the first time in 12,000 years. Options, she said quietly. Give me options. General Nexthal spoke up. Strike now with overwhelming force. Yes, we will take heavy casualties, but we can still win if we commit fully. That only makes them stronger. That assumes we can find their home world, Vixa pointed out. We still don't know where Earth is. They've been very careful to avoid revealing its location. We could strike at New Terra and any other colonies we find, but if we cannot locate their industrial base, we cannot win a war of production. What about biological or chemical weapons? Another council member suggested. We have never used such weapons against species capable of retaliation, but if the situation is dire enough. No, Califra said firmly. We are not barbarians. We do not commit genocide, no matter how convenient it might be. The Empire's strength has always been in our principles as much as our military might. I will not throw away 12,000 years of civilization because we encountered a species that proved better at building warships than we are. She turned back to face the council. What do we know about human intentions? Are they expansionist? Do they seek to conquer us? Admiral Thexel, who had remained quiet throughout most of the discussion, finally spoke. Majesty, in my interactions with Admiral Chun, she made it clear that humanity desires independence, not conquest. They want to build their own civilization without interference. They attacked only when we attempted to force them to submit. They also showed restraint. Vixa added, at Checkpoint Helix 9, they disabled our corvettes but did not destroy them. At New Terra, they could have annihilated Admiral Thex's entire force, but instead only destroyed enough ships to prove their point. A truly aggressive species would have pressed their advantage. Pelayer nodded. Their behavior is consistent with a defensive posture, not an offensive one. They appear to be following a doctrine of deterrence rather than conquest. Califra considered this. So we have a species that does not want war but is fully prepared for it. A species that will defend itself with overwhelming force if threatened but shows restraint when possible. Is that an accurate assessment? Yes, Majesty. Then perhaps, Califra said slowly, we should consider an alternative approach. What if instead of viewing humanity as a threat to be eliminated, we viewed them as a potential partner? The War Council looked at each other in surprise. Fleet Admiral Kasara was the first to speak. Majesty, they refused to become a protectorate. They have made it clear they will not submit to imperial authority. I did not suggest making them submit, Califra said. I suggested partnership. True partnership, not vassalage disguised as protection. We have something they need, our FTL technology, and they have something we need, their material science and manufacturing techniques. What if we negotiated a genuine treaty between equals? The Empire has never recognized another species as equal, General Nexthal said carefully. Then perhaps it is time we did, Califra replied. Think about what Director Pelayer has told us. The humans have achieved things we thought impossible. If we could combine their engineering capabilities with our scientific knowledge and faster-than-light travel, both our civilizations would benefit enormously. More importantly, it would secure peace without the catastrophic casualties of a war we are not certain we would win. She looked around the chamber. The Empire has endured for 12,000 years because we have been pragmatic as well as powerful. We have adapted to changing circumstances. We have incorporated useful technologies from other species. We have recognized when to fight and when to negotiate. This is one of those moments. The Council will resist, Vixa warned. Many will see negotiation as weakness. They will demand we crush this upstart species before they become too powerful to contain. Then we will deal with their objections, Califra said firmly. But I am Empress, and I have made my decision. We will pursue diplomatic contact with humanity. We will offer a genuine treaty of mutual benefit and mutual respect. And if they refuse, or if this proves to be a mistake, we can always resort to military options later. But I will not commit millions of Imperial citizens to a war that might be unnecessary simply because our pride was wounded. She returned to her throne. Admiral Thexel, you have had the most contact with human leadership. I am assigning you as head of our diplomatic mission. You will travel to New Terra and establish formal negotiations with Admiral Chun. You will offer a treaty of equals, technology exchange, mutual defense, and formal recognition of human sovereignty. Make it clear that we are not offering servitude, but genuine partnership. Thexel bowed deeply. Yes, Majesty, though I should note that I threatened to destroy them less than a week ago. I may not be the ideal choice for diplomacy. You are exactly the right choice, Califra said. You have seen what they can do. You understand the stakes, and you have shown wisdom in reporting accurately rather than hiding defeat. The humans will respect honesty more than false flattery from someone who has not witnessed their capabilities firsthand. She stood again, signaling the end of the council session. We stand at a crossroads. Down one path lies a war that will cost us dearly even if we win. Down the other lies the possibility of a partnership that could benefit both our species for millennia to come. I choose the second path. I expect all of you to support this decision. The council members rose and bowed. As they filed out, Pelayer approached the Empress privately. A wise decision, Majesty, he said quietly. Though I must point out one additional concern. If we share our FTL technology with the humans, and they apply their engineering philosophy to it, they will build drives faster and more efficient than ours. Yes, Califra replied. I am aware of that risk. But consider the alternative. If we fight them and lose, they will eventually reverse engineer our FTL technology anyway, and we will have gained nothing but casualties and enemies. If we partner with them willingly, at least we will have allies and access to their capabilities in return. And if the partnership fails, then we will have tried. The Empire was built by those brave enough to take calculated risks. This is such a risk. The humans have proven they are not primitives to be conquered. Let us see if they can prove to be partners worth having. As Pelayer left, Califra looked out over her capital. Somewhere out there, beyond the borders of the Empire, humans were building more of their impossible warships, ships that could challenge millennia of dominance, built by a species that refused to be anyone's subject. For 12,000 years, the Empire had been the dominant power in this region of space. That era might be ending, but perhaps if she handled this correctly, what came next could be even better. An alliance between Zarathian knowledge and human engineering, between imperial wisdom and human innovation. Or it could all go horribly wrong. But that was the nature of leadership, making hard choices and living with the consequences. Califra returned to her throne and began preparing the formal treaty documents. In 3 days, Admiral Thexel would carry them to New Terra. In 3 days, they would find out if humanity was willing to be a partner, or if war was inevitable. The fate of billions rested on that conversation. The diplomatic station hung in neutral space exactly halfway between New Terra and the nearest Imperial system. It was a simple structure built by human engineering teams in less than a week, modular construction, dense hull plating, artificial gravity generators, everything designed for function rather than beauty. Ambassador Kelther of the Zarathian Empire stepped off his shuttle and onto the station's docking platform. He was older than most diplomats, his scales showing the pale coloring of advanced age. He had served the Empire for 90 cycles, negotiating treaties with dozens of species. He had seen proud warrior cultures brought low. He had watched primitive species beg for imperial protection. He had crafted agreements that brought entire sectors under imperial control. This assignment was different. Kelther carried with him a diplomatic pouch containing something unprecedented in imperial history. A treaty between equals. Not a protectorate agreement, not a vassalage contract. An actual treaty recognizing another species as having equal status with the Empire. The fact that such a document existed at all told him everything he needed to know about how seriously the Empress was taking the human situation. 2 human guards met him at the airlock. They wore simple uniforms, no armor, and carried weapons that looked disturbingly efficient. Kelther had read the intelligence reports. Those weapons fired miniaturized relativistic projectiles similar to their warships. A single shot could punch through Imperial body armor as if it weren't there. Ambassador Kelther, one of the guards said politely, "Welcome to Diplomatic Station Hope. Admiral Chun is waiting for you in the conference chamber. If you'll follow us, please." The interior of the station was functional, but not uncomfortable. Humans clearly preferred efficiency over aesthetics, but they understood the basics of diplomatic courtesy. The conference chamber was well lit, with seating arranged in a circular pattern rather than the traditional adversarial table setup. A gesture meant to emphasize equality rather than negotiation from positions of power. Admiral Sarah Chun stood as Kelther entered. She wore her uniform but no weapons. Around her sat several other humans, some military, some clearly civilian advisors. Kelther had brought a smaller delegation, just himself and his senior aide. The Empress had been clear. This was not a negotiation where overwhelming the other side with numbers would help. "Ambassador Kelther," Chun said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Kelther had studied human customs during the 3-day journey. He took her hand and shook it gently. Her grip was firm but not aggressive. "Thank you for coming. Please sit." They all took their seats. For a moment, there was an awkward silence. Kelther was used to species being intimidated by imperial diplomats. The humans just looked curious and slightly wary. "I should begin," Kelther said carefully, "by acknowledging that our previous interactions have not been ideal. The Empire approached humanity with assumptions that proved incorrect. For that, I offer the Empress's apologies." Chen's eyebrows rose slightly. "That's appreciated. Not what I expected to hear, honestly. The Empress has reviewed all available information and concluded that the Empire made errors in judgment. We assumed that technological development in one area predicted development in all areas. We were wrong. We also assumed that because your species was small in number, you were insignificant. We were wrong about that as well." Kelther placed the diplomatic pouch on the table between them. "The Empress has sent me with a proposal. But before I present it, I have a question I must ask. What does humanity want? Not just independence, though I understand that is important to you. What are your goals? Your long-term intentions?" Chun glanced at her advisors, then back at Kelther. "That's a fair question. Humanity's goals are relatively simple. We want to expand, not through conquest, but through colonization of uninhabited systems. We want to build a civilization that reflects our values: freedom, innovation, and cooperation. We want to make contact with other species and establish peaceful relations. And yes, we want to do all of this on our own terms, not as subjects of an empire we had no say in joining." "And if the Empire were to recognize those goals?" Kelther asked. "If we were to offer genuine partnership rather than vassalage?" "We'd be interested," Chun said carefully. "But we'd need to understand what you mean by partnership. The last time your people offered us something, it came with strings that made it unacceptable." Kelther nodded and opened the diplomatic pouch. Inside were data crystals containing the treaty documents, and a personal message crystal from Empress Khalifa herself. He activated it, and a holographic image of the Empress appeared above the table. Admiral Chun and representatives of humanity, the Empress began. I am Califra, Empress of the Zarathian Empire. I send this message to acknowledge a simple truth. We underestimated you. We looked at your ships and saw primitives. We looked at your numbers and saw weakness. We were wrong on all counts. You have proven that there are multiple paths to power, and that the path the Empire chose is not the only valid one. You have shown restraint when you could have pressed your advantage. You have defended yourselves without seeking to destroy us. These are the actions of a mature civilization, not the primitives we assumed you to be. Therefore, I extend an offer unprecedented in Imperial history. An alliance of equals, a true partnership between the Zarathian Empire and humanity. The hologram shifted to technical diagrams and proposals. We offer full access to Imperial faster-than-light technology, our sensor networks, and our scientific databases. In return, we ask for access to your material science, manufacturing techniques, and power generation systems. We propose mutual defense agreements, joint research programs, and coordinated colonization efforts to avoid territorial conflicts. Most importantly, we offer recognition of human sovereignty. You will not be subjects. You will be partners. I understand you have no reason to trust us, but I ask you to look beyond our initial failures and consider what our civilizations might achieve together. The galaxy is vast. There are threats neither of us has yet encountered, wonders to discover, and challenges to overcome. We can face them as adversaries, or we can face them as allies. The hologram vanished. Kelthur studied the humans carefully. They were conferring quietly. Chun listened to her advisors before speaking. Finally, she turned back. That's a generous offer. Suspiciously generous, some would say. What's the catch? There is no catch, Kelthur said. Though I will be frank about the Empire's motivations. We ran projections. A full-scale war with humanity would cost us dearly even if we won. Your production capabilities are extraordinary. You are currently building approximately 1 warship every day and a half. Within a year, you could field a fleet that rivals ours in size while maintaining your technological advantages. The Empire could win such a war, but the cost would be catastrophic. So this is motivated by fear, one of Chen's advisors said. Motivated by pragmatism, Kelthur corrected. The Empress could have ordered immediate total war. She chose not to. Not because the Empire is weak, but because she is wise enough to recognize when cooperation benefits everyone more than conflict. You have something we need. We have something you need. Why should millions die when both sides could prosper? Chun leaned back, studying him. You're being very honest. That's unexpected. Lying would be pointless, Kelthur replied. Your intelligence services already know what we were preparing. You know we have halted those preparations pending this negotiation. Honesty seems the best approach when the other side already knows most of the truth. Chun smiled slightly at that. Fair point. All right, Ambassador. Let me be equally honest. You're right about our production capabilities. We currently have 823 warships operational. By this time next year, we'll have over 3,000. By the year after that, probably 10,000. Kelthur felt his breathing membranes flutter involuntarily. 10,000 ships. The Empire's entire fleet numbered approximately 5,000 vessels. But here's the thing, Chun continued. We don't want to build 10,000 warships. Do you know how many resources that takes? How many people we have to pull into military production instead of building colonies, science stations, and hospitals? She stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Humanity spent 400 years trapped in one star system, Ambassador. 400 years working on engineering problems while dreaming about what was out there. We built weapons because we weren't naive. We knew the galaxy probably wasn't friendly. But weapons aren't what we want to build. We want to build homes. We want to explore. We want to learn. We want to meet other species and share knowledge and culture. She turned back. So yes, we're interested in your offer. But we need guarantees. Real ones. Not just pretty words in a treaty that you'll ignore when it's convenient. What guarantees do you require? Kelthur asked. One of Chen's advisors, a man with gray hair and sharp eyes, spoke up. First, absolute sovereignty. No imperial governors, no imperial oversight, no imperial laws applied to human space. We govern ourselves completely. Agreed, Kelthur said immediately. Second, another advisor added, any technology exchange must be complete and unrestricted. We're not interested in partial access or deliberately limited versions. Agreed. The Empress anticipated that concern. All technology sharing will be complete, including manufacturing specifications and theoretical foundations. Third, Chun said, mutual defense means exactly that. Mutual. If the Empire is threatened, we'll help defend you. But if humanity is threatened, the Empire responds with the same level of commitment, not token support. Full commitment. Kelthur hesitated. That was a significant ask, but looking at Chen's expression, it was non-negotiable. I will need to consult with the Empress on the specific language, he said carefully. But I believe this is acceptable in principle. Fourth, the gray-haired advisor said, joint command structure for any combined military operations. Neither side has automatic authority over the other. Decisions are made cooperatively. Acceptable, Kelthur agreed. And finally, Chun said, expansion rights. Humanity will continue to colonize uninhabited systems. We will not encroach on imperial territory, but we will not accept restrictions on unclaimed space. She activated a holographic star map. We've identified approximately 200 systems within 1,000 light-years of Earth that are suitable for colonization. We intend to settle them. Kelthur studied the map carefully. None were in imperial territory. Most of these are acceptable, he said. However, systems 17, 23, and 44 are currently claimed by the Empire. We would need to negotiate those specifically. We can discuss those individually, Chin agreed. But the principle stands. We need room to grow. Kelthur leaned back, studying the humans. They were negotiating from strength, but not greed. Everything they asked for was logical, sustainable, structured. I believe we have the foundation for an agreement, Kelthur said. But I have a question. Why show restraint? You clearly have the military capability to expand aggressively. You could take whatever you wanted. Why negotiate at all? Chun returned to her seat. Because that's not who we are, Ambassador. Humanity has a long and often ugly history. We fought countless wars among ourselves. We've nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. But we learned. We learned that peace is harder than war, but more valuable. We learned cooperation achieves more than conquest. We learned that the strongest civilizations are built on principles, not just power. She leaned forward slightly. We built ships that can't be destroyed because we never want to be at anyone's mercy. But we don't want to be conquerors either. We want to be neighbors, partners, friends if possible. The galaxy is big enough for all of us. There's no reason we can't share it peacefully. Kelthur felt something shift in his understanding. He had expected warriors intoxicated by strength. Instead, he found restraint backed by capability and conviction stronger than fear. Then let us formalize this agreement, he said. I will need approximately 3 days to consult with the Empress on final details. Agreed, Chin said. 3 days. They stood and shook hands again. As Kelthur turned to leave, Chun stopped him. Ambassador, what did you think when you first saw the battle reports from New Terra? Kelthur considered it. I thought the galaxy is about to change. And I was right. But not in the way I feared. He paused. Now I think the change may be for the better. The Empire has been dominant for so long we became complacent. You've reminded us that power comes in many forms. I believe this partnership will strengthen both our civilizations. Chin smiled faintly. I hope you're right. 3 days later, the treaty was signed. Full documentation was transmitted to both governments. Celebrations erupted across human colonies. In the imperial capital, the reaction was mixed. Some celebrated. Others called it weakness. But Empress Califra stood firm. For 12,000 years, she said in a galaxy-wide broadcast, the Empire has maintained order through wisdom and strength. Today we demonstrate both again. Humanity is not our subject. They are our partners. And together we will face whatever comes next. 6 months after the treaty, the first joint Imperial Human Research Station opened near their shared border. Zarathian scientists worked alongside human engineers, knowledge and practicality, theory and execution, finally learning from each other instead of preparing to destroy one another. The breakthroughs came faster than anyone anticipated. Human FTL drives built using Imperial principles but refined through human engineering proved to be 30% faster than standard Imperial drives. Imperial energy weapons redesigned using human material science became 40% more efficient. Collaborative shipyards began producing hybrid vessels that combined the best of both civilizations' technologies. Admiral Chun stood on the observation deck of the joint military headquarters, watching as the first combined fleet departed for patrol duty, 15 human warships and 20 Imperial vessels flying in formation. A year ago, those ships would have been shooting at each other. Now they were defending each other. Admiral Thexel stood beside her. The Zarathian had become her counterpart in the joint command structure. Their initial hostile encounter at New Terra seemed like ancient history now. It's remarkable, Thexel said quietly. A year ago, I came to your system intending to force your submission. Now I watch our ships fly together as allies. The universe works in strange ways. Not strange, Chin corrected gently. Just unexpected. Sometimes the best outcomes are the ones we don't anticipate. I have a question, Thexel said. Your species spent 400 years preparing for this moment, building weapons, developing technology, all in anticipation of meeting other species. Yet when you finally met us, you showed restraint. Why? Chun was quiet for a moment before answering. Because humanity learned a hard lesson over our history. The most powerful weapon in the universe isn't the one that destroys your enemy. It's the one you never have to use. We built ships that couldn't be beaten so we would never have to fight. We built walls so strong that nobody would dare attack us, which meant we could offer peace from a position of genuine security rather than desperation. She turned to him. Your empire has lasted 12,000 years through military might and governance. That's impressive. But imagine what you could accomplish if instead of maintaining dominance over hundreds of subject species, you spent those resources on partnership with equals. The galaxy is full of mysteries we haven't solved, threats we haven't faced, opportunities we haven't explored. Together, we can accomplish more than either of us could alone. The Empress believes the same, Thexel said. Though convincing the Empire will take time. There are still those who see humanity as upstart primitives who got lucky. Chen laughed lightly. Let them think that. We'll keep building impossible things while they underestimate us. She brought up a display. A massive new ship design filled the screen, larger than anything either civilization had ever built. Its structure blended human hull density with Imperial shielding, human weapons with Imperial sensors, human power systems with Imperial faster-than-light drives. The Empress and Earth's president have approved a joint project, Chun said. The first true hybrid warship. We're calling it the Treaty Class. This one is the UN Zin's Harmony, named to represent our alliance. Construction begins next month. Humans and Zarathians working side by side to build something neither of us could build alone. Thexel studied it carefully. It's magnificent and terrifying. This vessel could defeat either of our previous generation ships with ease. That's the point, Chin said. Because there are things out there in the galaxy neither of us has encountered yet. Deep survey scans have picked up anomalies, energy signatures that don't match any known technology, ship profiles that don't match any known configuration. Something is out there, Admiral. Something that might make our past conflicts look like playground disputes. The Void Collective, Thexel said quietly. We've been tracking them for 3 months. They appeared from uncharted space and destroyed 2 independent colonies. No communication, no warnings, just overwhelming force, then silence. Exactly, Chen said. That's why we need ships like the Harmony. That's why this alliance matters. Whatever the Void Collective is, it won't care about our history. It will be a threat to all of us. They stood in silence as the combined fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel. Two species that had nearly gone to war were now preparing to face the unknown together. Empress Califera had been right. The galaxy was changing. But it wasn't the end of the Empire. It was the beginning of something new. An alliance built not on dominance, but on respect and shared purpose. Humanity had spent 400 years preparing for the galaxy. They had built weapons they never intended to use, and defenses they never wanted to rely on. And now, finally, they had found partners worthy of that strength. The future was uncertain. The Void Collective was only the first sign of deeper dangers yet unseen. But for the first time, humanity and the Empire would face it together. Innovation and wisdom combined, determination and experience aligned. In the darkness between stars, something watched. Ancient intelligence observed the alliance forming and waited. These young species believed they were ready. They would learn. In time, they would all learn. But that was a story for another day. For now, humanity and the Empire looked toward the same horizon, unaware of how large the storm ahead truly was.